waves all around us now. These waves all around us now.
Welcome very, very much to Conversations, where I'm pleased to welcome to the program this evening Paul Benjamin. And Paul Benjamin is an actor. He's been an actor for a very long time, and he understands the trials and tribulations of people who are in the acting profession. And Paul Benjamin, I want to welcome you very, very much to Conversations. It's a great pleasure.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure to talk with you. And we're here talking now. You've been in the game or in the business of acting for a very long time, and maybe a good place to start is with your beginnings, because you're out of South Carolina. Did you say you're coming up from there, and you all of a sudden got the idea that you wanted to be an actor, which is a little bit hard sometimes for the family and so forth to understand. Maybe you share your own background a little bit, and then we will talk about your acting career, many of the films you've appeared in. But maybe you could bring it. How did you come to be an actor?
It's like, it's like, how did I get to be an actor?
Yeah.
That has always been a kind of a difficult question for me to answer, even to my own satisfaction, in that it just happened. I mean, it just happened. It's like there was a germ planted within me, and at a time, after a certain point of germination, I just knew it was something that I wanted to do. Not really so much as why, as I knew it was something I wanted to do.
Yeah. Right.
And of course, it did take some years before I really began to pursue this ambition.
Yeah, it's like people just sort of think that's off in never land, and you almost sometimes have to hide that from people that you have this aspiration to become an actor, because they think that, you know what, that's not real, that's not a real kind of situation. But
well, you know, yes, especially that particular part of the country that I came for. It wasn't like an everyday kind of life, say, you know, being there in the South.
Right.
As to someone growing up here in New York,
right,
with that desire, to say, well, I'm going to be an actor, and hey, it's no big thing,
you
know, because there are so many others.
Right.
In my case, the thought or the mention of being an actor, I mean, it's like
I'm going to the moon.
Someone is perhaps more apt to ask you, especially at the time when it was within me to become an actor. It's like, I mean, actor? What is that?
Yeah, right.
You know? But I did manage at a point to find a way to express that desire that had taken me over after some years, you know, among friends, you know, in such a way that when I would speak in terms of, well, you know, I'm going to become an actor someday. And I'm going to be taken off for Hollywood.
Right.
And I would have a good laugh, right?
Yeah, then they come up, they say, sure you are.
Yeah,
exactly. Sure you are.
Right.
Yeah, of course you are.
Which, of course, it made it easier for me to deal with, in that I knew.
You knew that you were, but you could.
I knew, I knew that I was serious, but they didn't.
Right, exactly, right.
So in that respect, we could all have a good laugh.
All right,
you know, because if they had taken me seriously, I would have been. Listen, I would have been ran out of town.
Yeah, right, right, like that.
Because
right.
as it turned out, I did leave town.
Yes, you did.
Like midnight one night.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just, listen, I'm off to New York.
I'm off to New York to become a star, or to become an actor, right? I'm going to become a stage actor.
Yes,
man,
you know,
right?
as time I make the move, you know, and then as time passed, you know, and so like with my family, you know, we talk about it, you know, and it's like, I mean, this is where is the boy going? I mean, he's got to be praised. He's going off to become an actor, you know. That's my family nickname, the boy.
Yeah, I see, right.
Because I'm the youngest of 12.
Wow.
In the family, right? You know, there were 6 boys and 6 girls. And
the youngest, he's off.
He's gone. It's like he's gone crazy.
Yeah, right. Well, it is almost like that. You got to be like, you know, you got to be crazy to think you can be an actor.
But I had family up here, right?
Right.
You know, I had family. I mean, I had a sister up here that I managed to spend some time with.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you had someone to come to with that thing, you know, and that sort of thing. But it's a tough game, isn't it? I mean, it's a tough business. I mean, to put it mildly. I don't know. It's probably harder. Like I said to you off camera, it's probably a little bit harder to try and make your way as a poet. You know, I don't know, but I don't know. But to be an artist, or to be so many of the creative arts and so forth, they're difficult in and of themselves. Vincent van Gogh had a very difficult time of it, you know, and other people did. That seems to be
the case
because,
so often, perhaps too often, you know. It's like, I recall early, it's like when I first started to make the rounds here in New York, my teacher from acting school, Herbert Berghof, he had written this letter of recommendation to a number of agencies here, right, in the city for me.
Yeah, right.
And I remember, I imagine it was near the end of the day, I went to visit this particular agency. I suppose it's okay if I mention that name.
Sure, why not?
That moment remains with me today, okay? Miss Anna Ostertag, forgive me if I don't have exact.
Yeah. Right.
Ostertag.
Right, okay.
His name. It was like near the end of the day, and I'm walking, you know, I'm much younger.
Yes, right.
And anxious, you know. I mean, it's, you know, it's like I want to be on Broadway like yesterday,
right?
Or I want to be making films like yesterday.
What time's the train leave for Hollywood?
Yeah.
You
know, so the thing that stood up, the moment that stood out for me in that time, she turned to me and says, you know, it's going to take a while.
Yeah. And
then she went on to say, it could take 20 years. It could take 30 years. In this moment, I cannot recall the exact words that were my response, if I did at all. But I do recall leaving there not feeling very encouraged.
Oh, man, I can understand.
You know? 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years, you gotta be clear.
I am a good talent. I'm a good artist. Why must I wait 10? Why should it take 10, 20, 30 years?
Yes, right.
That was then.
Yeah, and you were a good artist. There are many people who are artists have a difficult time. The good artists sometimes have the most difficult time sometimes. I don't know if that's true. Do you think the really good talents are discovered in the process of exposing the arts in this country? I mean, because we do. Vincent van Gogh never sold a painting in all of his life because he was too good for his time, as the song says, and so forth. You think it's a problem with the arts in general that some of the really great talents are never picked up? You have been recognized. You've had major roles, and you've had a chance to really make major contributions. But just a general view of the artist, and particularly the actor as part of the artistic community. Does the opportunities that are there allow the talent to really out or not, as a general observation? What do you think?
I think the opportunity is and has always been there. I think what it comes down to is those who might gain access to that opportunity, who might get the chance
Yeah.
to take advantage of that opportunity. You mentioned talent. Not that it should, but I personally feel oftentimes that in respect to one's talent and one's success, I believe that one's talent was more greatly recognized and taken into consideration 30, 40, 50 years ago
You do? Okay. That's interesting.
than today.
Really interesting. Yeah. Why would that have been, do you think?
Frankly, I think there was a greater concern for the work, the truth of the work. I mean, this is just my own personal feeling.
Yeah.
You know, for example, it's like I watch television times, right? Or
Sure.
I might on occasions go to see a film.
Sure.
But with respect to television, my greatest moments with respect to watching television comes late at night, in the middle of the morning, from the older films, when, you know what, as one might say, I find a good oldie,
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
and you become so involved with it,
Mm-hmm.
and you see the truth of the artist,
Yeah.
the artist's work,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
from scene to scene to scene.
Right. Yeah.
And that is, I don't want to sound as though I'm knocking the work today or the,
It's okay.
for example,
That's nothing. It's okay.
the kind of car chase
Yeah. Right.
that you may see in a good oldie.
Yeah. Right.
For some reason or another, you can stay more focused on those who are making this chase than opposing to today. You see the car chase. And of course, technology has a
Yeah, well,
lot
that- yeah,
to do
yeah.
in respect to making films. But it's like you can lose with respect to that person, let's say, that might be in the car, to the supposedly excitement
Yes. Right.
of this chase. You know, is he going to run into the ocean? Is he going to hit this car or that car?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it becomes it's so magnanimous.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it becomes like overwhelming, and that is not to say it is not good filmmaking. This thought comes with respect to the artist and the talent. But you see, what we have today, I mean, the special effects person
Yeah, they are-
today
yeah, right.
is as much the star of a film,
All these
oftentimes-
electronic enhancements.
oftentimes
Yeah.
as the talent,
Yeah. Right. That's right.
you know.
Yeah. And or the director even, or even the director, or the director,
Yes,
the
yeah.
technical director, because the computers and the electronic
Well,
stuff is
yes.
coming in so much now and everything like that. But you know, you don't have the directing like the films of the past and that. But as far as actors are concerned, you know, as far as the actors are concerned, we had these actors, you have people coming up and that sort of thing. I have to admit that, like, I am more attuned to the actors like, Katharine Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart, and the actors than I am of the modern, the modern thing. But then I don't know. I sometimes think, well, maybe that's just me. I'm getting older and so forth, and I go back to that time. But the actor himself, do you think in the commercial process? I mean, because acting and the arts and the whole film industry, the theater industry, television industry, everything is part of a broader world, and that world is all caught up within economic realities, and there are certain kinds of things that make it possible for some people to find an expression. Some groups have been able to. I think did you work some with Spike Lee?
Yes.
Yeah, you have. So there's some people who've been able to make, you know, get together the capital and things you have to do to make a picture, and there's all those. But does that process, I mean, the commercialization considerations, or the business end, as it were, of the whole question of, let's say, film, television, and I would say that as part of a broader expression of art in general, does it get in the way of, or does it allow for the real talent to emerge like, you know, talent will out, some people will say. We'll be able to get, they'll be able to out, and they'll recognize it. I just wonder in general. Or are there a lot of people who never are discovered, or never able to find a way into that, like, again, back to that mentioning of Vincent van Gogh, in a certain sense, was too good for his time and something, you know?
Well, you know, I think...
Academy never did accept him, you know, I mean, in France, you know.
But, you know, you try and buy one of them today.
Now, yeah,
today,
I'm saying that, yeah.
And
of
course, that has been the case for so many great artists, you know, to only be discovered after they have done the work and gone on for that work to be appreciated. But if
and that woman's telling you got to wait. That woman's telling you got to wait 20 years when you're a young man and
of course,
to
you
come
don't want to hear that.
Yeah, of course not.
And sometimes it can drive you mad.
Yeah, I bet it could.
Drive you mad.
Like any other art expression, yeah.
You know, it's like you speak in terms of the economics of the arts. You know, as an actor, with regards to theater, film, television, and so forth. You know, I mean, I think it's greatly affected. You know, affected with respect to the economics of one's own personal life, the system as a whole. You know, I mean, inflation or non-inflation. You know, and we can go back to, as you mentioned, select the time of Spencer Tracy, you know, Clark Gable, Captain Hellbrand. You know, you can look up. You know, you can go to the academy there, right, and you can look up the budget for this film of that period.
Yeah.
To do a remake of a film that was done 50 years ago, it would not surprise me if it would cost almost that many times, you know, 10, 15 times
over
today.
Yes, right.
And oftentimes, it doesn't come anywhere near the original one.
And the demands of the business.
But of course, it has to do with the economics.
You know, and the demands
of the business.
Right. And that certainly is in television, where the demands of the mass market. You know, they're just trying to get eyeballs to watch things, to sell products and so forth. And the demands of that, very often won't allow for the quality to come through. So I suppose people who are really the actors are always looking for a good property, a writer, you know, who can put forth words right and have something that you can really work with. And that's too often in short repair. That is seen by the business people as being able to be not only of high quality and to have a real message or something to say, but also is going to be able to get people into seats in the theater, and they got to make sure that they're going to, you know, that tension is there.
But that's the commercial aspect of it. You know, it's like, what's in the name today? Everything is in the name today. You know,
celebrity.
With respect, yes.
Yeah.
You know,
unfortunately,
and in that regard, you know, right off the top, there is a certain amount of money that has to go with respect to that quote-unquote star.
Yeah.
You know, and then you go down the line. You know, and oftentimes with respect to the budgets, you know, you are not going to be able to always reach the potential of a project. I have experienced them.
Yeah, well,
you know, in that regard, you know, you come up with a $500,000 budget, you know, and then you find yourself running over. So how are you going to do it? The technology is so far greater today, in that regards today, And yesterday, even 20 years ago, even during the time when I went to see the lady, you know, she said, hey, relax. There will be time, you know, relax, you know, 10 years from now, maybe.
We got a thing where there's so many people who want to, young people, let's take young people coming along as well as other people, but we have a world where the arts in general, let's say the arts in general, that somebody who, you know, you could make a joke almost of the idea, maybe be philosophical for a minute, you could almost make a joke of the idea that I am going to become an actor. You say back in, you know, when you were coming up in your home and so forth. Or if you were going to say, I am going to be a creative artist, or I am going to be a poet. In fact, what we're talking about are the most creative aspects of the human spirit. It's the thing that the human person, or the human, you know, species, is most able to be at their creative highest expression of fulfilling human purpose and so forth. And yet the society, and the normal society, would say that you cannot possibly be having this very fulfilling role for yourself in the society, the way it's set up, because you cannot possibly earn your way or make your way by doing that which is fulfilling of the human prospect. It's best you take up accounting or some sort of thing that'll fit into, which is very mundane compared to the creative arts.
But that's
Don't you think we have a real problem in terms, and then the young people coming up who want to perform, they want to perform artistically or in other kinds of ways, that they're almost unable to be creative or to pursue creativity because the demands of the society are so stifling of the creative process itself and make it almost impossible for the creative spirit to survive.
With respect,
and it's getting worse, it would seem, or is it?
Yes,
I don't know.
I'm inclined to agree with respect to the nation as a whole. You know, I mean, I don't know why it is as such.
But it is.
In this greatest country in the world, that it seems so little with respect to the government itself is put towards the arts. You know, it seems like the only time you hear about the arts is when they're going to make a cut.
Yeah, well, they were
cutting back
right,
more.
right. Nowadays,
You know, but I just say, I'd like to go back.
yeah, what little bit was, if I may, what little bit was in the government, they're now talking about cutting it out. Cut out
exactly.
what, the National
That's
Endowment to the
thing.
Humanities. They want to cut it out because it's,
of course
you know, they
people
want to cut down the
affected,
deficit
you know,
and,
the younger
you know,
talent.
right.
But you know,
But I wasn't just saying, it's not just, you know, like private sector, public sector, because there's a private sector industry. Obviously, you've been involved in the film industry. There's a private sector, there's television, there's Broadway theater and other theater. There's private sector. But I meant just in general, there's something wrong with a society that doesn't encourage or allow the creative spirit to be seen in really important terms. And there's so many people who want to be actors, or who might want to be poets, or who might want to be painters. And it would be, as we had to almost be, you have to be a closet creative person. It's almost like a closet thing, that you're creative in order to be in the society. And it's a general, you know, it's just a general observation that I'm making, you know. It's odd. If you were to come from Mars and see a society, it would be odd that they discourage that which is the most creative and fulfilling of a human purpose is discouraged systematically by a society. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm stepping on your lines here, Paul.
It's discouraging, and yes, it can cause one to become discouraged in that there is no greater national support with respect from the government as a whole, whereby other talents, not just actors, if one should want to...
You know, I said it's the whole art, yeah, right.
It's the whole art, but then, of course, you can go back to the economics of it all.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's the first excuse. Let's say, for example, the National Endowment coming out of Washington, you know, the federal government, right? You know, that comes back to what you spoke on earlier with respect to the economics of it all, you know. And the government say, listen, we just don't have the money.
That's right.
So they bring out the agenda and say, where can we start cutting?
Yeah, right.
Where's the first cut?
Right.
Let's start with the alphabets. Okay, we have A. Art.
Right.
Zip, zap, zap.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, and this is a part of it too, I think, in that which I wanted to go back on for a moment. As in my beginning, a lot of,
You're not just
The
walking
truth
out of that
of it-
Miss, what was her name? That gave
Miss Ostertag.
walk out
Yeah.
of her office and you're just pondering, what does this
Before
mean?
that, you see, and I feel kind of, I find myself in moments and times
Yeah.
in heated
Yeah.
conversations with respect to the state of the arts,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
with respect to the actors, like it was mentioned the other day, 85 to 90% of those who are considered to be actors, for the most part, unemployed.
Yeah, sure.
Unemployed.
Yeah, sure, that would be the normal state of affairs, much less poets.
And there are many reasons for that. And what I wanted to
You can
point
explain
out
this to me, right? You can explain this to me? Okay. Okay, go
I
ahead.
could,
You can explain
you know,
this.
I mean, I could give you my thoughts, you know, because today, especially today, how might we gain the greater return on whatever it is we might invest in this project?
Yeah, it's all just another business.
So it starts,
yeah.
you know, it starts with respect to, as we just spoke, in terms of, say, if it's a stage production, musical, you know, a drama, or film, or television. You have to start with respect to what artist, whether it be the director, actor, or whomever, you know, or the prop man,
Yeah.
that can better guarantee a return on this investment,
And that becomes consideration number one.
which lends to the fact that the average, more popular film that is released today has that certain name, and you
Back to celebrity.
and you
right.
see these certain names over and over
It's
and
odd.
over and over.
Yeah.
That is not to mean that there is no greater talent or as great of talent out there as those that we see over and over and over in the lead roles, however.
That's
you know.
what I'm saying, yeah.
I mean,
in fact, there might be
is
some that
a
are far better.
multitude- There is a multitude of talent out
right.
there.
Right, right. That's
So
what,
we come back
that's what
to
I'm
the
trying to
20
say.
years.
Right.
It will take until this particular crop
Yeah.
has gone to a point that maybe at some point, some great talent that has been lurking, trying to break into this circle of talents that is being used, and God bless them, because they are artists and they are brilliant talents, you know. And at the same time, we find ourselves so frustrated in that, but I'm just as talented.
Right, right, right.
Okay, so I haven't had a paragraph written on me to attract the attention of
The celebrity makers.
the celebrity makers.
Yeah,
you know,
right. Right.
However, I have not had that particular paragraph. You know, so I keep pushing and pushing until, you know, and then you see a thing that I don't often talk about, or is so desirous, because as an artist, art is art is art is art. You know, with respect to the soul
Right.
of one.
Right.
But there is that fact, being a black.
Oh, that's another thing I hadn't even thought of. Right. Okay. Right. 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 I mean, yeah. That's right. You're black. I hadn't even thought about it.
I think at one point we had talked of camera. You know, I mean, it's like we had spoken in terms of the art.
Yeah.
Or I had initiated a thought with respect to the art.
Yeah.
You know, it's a reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Acting, a reflection of the life that is, was, or might be,
Yeah.
which makes up the system that was, is, or might become.
All right. Yeah. All right.
And what I'm coming to in that respect, there is the melting pot of us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in respect to the black artist, or the black actor, the white actor, Asian, however,
Yeah.
you know. And there is that separation, whether we like it or not, whether we want to acknowledge it and deal with it, the fact remains. And of course, that contributes to this high number of unemployed actors in particular today, because of who they or we might be.
We have something screwed up in our priorities where that which so many people want to do and want to express are not able to find the places within the society that allow them to express that which they want and are capable of producing and want to express. There's something wrong with the priorities of the society in a broad sense. I don't know. There's another realm. I mean, I think we have to. And we got all this downsizing of these bureaucrats that are in these computer-operated economy. I mean, we have middle-class angst with those people who have those jobs out in the large corporations and so forth. We have technological problems of. Well, there's going to be technological problems of offshore competition, bringing those mass-produced goods, and I guess we need those mass-produced goods. They're increasingly made by robots and by technological systems and so forth. The creative role of somebody in an advertising agency working out a campaign to sell puppy biscuits gets paid huge amounts of money. It's hard to understand. We're going to have some sort of a new economic system to relate people to it. And it might be that if we have a way of relating to a changed economic order, then we're going to have to allow for there to be some, in my view, some expanded ownership of the technology that would then free people up to be involved in the things that are really important, which are the creative aspects of the human spirit. We give the creative aspects of the human spirit very short shrift with our almost total interest and total, almost bowing down in a quasi-religious sense to Moloch, to money. Everything is controlled by the dollar-place considerations of economics. We need to have some sort of an economic order that can free people to have some sort of freedom from the constraints of those bureaucratic systems, for one thing, that they must go buy into to survive, and then to free them to have income to be able to be involved in the expressions of the human spirit that is so important. I don't know what form that would take, but it might be outside of the marketplace economy, even though there would have to be that, because this thing is growing up as it's like a great big sort of cyst or something. You puncture that. The tension is growing up among the broader society that it's going to find expression from the younger and from other people, particularly as the tensions grow among the people who no longer are going to be able to find security in those traditional patterns, which I would predict is coming. I think, that's just I don't want to get off on that, but that's just another thing. But the most important aspects of the human spirit are given such short shrift, and acting and so forth is one of them. Now listen, you came out of her office. What was her name again? Miss Axmeyer or something?
As I recall, I mean...
I understand.
Miss Ostertag.
Ostertag, God bless her, and so forth and everything. Yes. She said, you got a long haul in front of you, young man, and so forth.
Don't be surprised.
Don't be surprised if you get a disappointment or two along the way. But you did manage to get Joseph Papp. You got involved with Papp, and you got involved. Maybe you could talk a little bit about it, and we have a couple of clips that we want to show of a couple of acting jobs showing your work, as it were, in a sense. But maybe you could share a little bit of some of the work that you have. Maybe you could go over it in a fast kind of way, some of the work patterns that you have done, share it with the viewing audience. And of course, it's Paul Benjamin. Many people, particularly those in the theater, are going to be very familiar with it. Maybe you could share it with us. Some of the, you know, where did it pick up, and where, you know, from sitting on that doorstep of Miss Astrakhan and looking out from there.
I debuted with Joe Papp at the Public Theater.
Right. Okay.
The late '60s.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first 3 or 4 years, most of my work as an actor was the Public Theater.
Yeah.
Or between Lincoln Center and the Public Theater.
On stage acting.
The stage.
Right.
Stage. And there was a couple of off-Broadway shows other than those two particular repertory companies.
Right, right.
And to further compensate at that time, you know, I would do extra work.
Sure,
you know,
well, yeah, I understand.
I mean, whether it be a film or the soaps,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
especially at first time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and but of course at the time, you know, I mean, I was in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to continue to be an extra,
Right.
to be a bit player.
Right, right.
You know,
fair enough. Right. You had a burning
so
talent
after
to
that,
show to express itself. Yeah.
And the passion remains.
Yes, right. Good, and well admired.
However,
Yeah, sure.
you know, I finally arrived at a point where I did what I consider my first film.
Yeah.
Which I kind of think came at an untimely period. With
Untimely
respect
or timely?
Untimely.
Untimely.
With respect to the genre of films that was happening at the time, you know,
Yeah.
and specifically
Talking.
with the black films.
Oh, okay,
you know,
okay. That's yeah. You're right. You got
that
perspective on
that
things.
were happening, you know.
Yeah.
This was my first film.
Right.
Happened at a time when the thought crossover was beginning to happen.
Oh.
With respect from the black films, some would call them blaxploitation, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was coming out of that, and it was becoming more inclusive with respect to film as a whole,
Yeah.
rather than pigeoning
Yeah.
it here
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there.
Is that paving the way for some of that? Again, you brought it up. Black. I hadn't even thought of black like that. It's like they used to have jazz, right? It was jazz, and then they had these white cover groups or something like that that would take the real,
I'll tell you the way I
real
feel about
expression, you know. And you had Pat Boone singing the blues, you know, and with great popularity or something, you know. But I mean, the black film talent is beginning to find expression with some. Mr. Singleton and Spike Lee, some of these others, and you know, it's finding,
which
you know,
becomes
without
a
it being
generation,
exploited, you know, without it, you know,
whole
being
generation
ripping
later.
off, you know. Yeah, okay, well, go ahead. Yeah,
You know,
you're talking about the 70s, right, with the film,
the,
right?
the 70s,
Right.
you know, into the mid 70s,
Right.
you know, with respect to when I made my first film. But you know, I mean, you have, as you mentioned, the Spike Lees, the Matterits, the John Singleton, you know, brilliant talent.
Starting to happen now, yeah. It
You
should be
know,
happening
right.
a lot more than it is. Yeah,
it
it should
should
be
be.
happening like really, yeah.
But you see, it becomes to a point, but for how long?
Yeah.
You know,
Uh-huh.
I often think in terms of there must be a way to find a greater networking among the artists, you know, the artists as a whole,
Right.
you know, and I would hope there would be someone to begin to find a greater way of networking with respect to the black artists
Well, all right.
as a whole.
Right.
You know, there was a period when the independent film makers were like dictating the industry to a point. Then the industry itself, the studios, okay, managed to regain control. But however, at this time, you have the independent studios as well as the general studios, you know, the more the Universals, the Paramounts, and so forth. You have the other independent studios, such as TriStar, for example, which is, they are very important with respect to the whole of the artistic community today. I find myself associated now, being one of the founders of a theater group here in LA, okay, which came out of necessity with the inactivity of the multitude of
talent
artists.
Right, I hear you. Right.
This particular theater was born like a year ago. You know, in that today, our initial season having to do with stage and dramatic readings of new works.
Good.
Whereby you know, we bring in directors, actors that are so talented. But the struggle being so great with respect to gaining that kind of recognition where you can be called, you know, let's say by a studio or an agency, you know, and it's why.
I just think you ought to have the resources to whale. You should be a whale and be able to create your own stuff. You have real resources somehow there, you know.
Well, of course, but then that goes back to the economics.
That thing we were talking about before. But listen, let's get back to this we can, because you said it was in the early 70s and you did your first film, right? You thought was your film after doing with Mr. Papp and other things on stage. And I don't know how much we could talk about the difference between stage acting and filming and television and that. But talk about that, because we have a clip we want to show some people of that. Was it having to do with Sonny Carson or something?
Sonny Carson, that's a film I did. It was shortly after my first film, like 73, 74.
Okay.
You know.
What was the name of the film?
The Education of Sonny Carson.
All right.
You know, it was based on a true story. And I was asked to play the father. There was of the young man, the young actor that played Sonny Carson himself. It was a good experience.
Okay, now you're playing in this film. We're going to show a little bit. You're playing the father, Sonny Carson, and if I'm not mistaken, he's just coming out of prison.
Right.
And one of them, and this is also interesting because there's a sociological implication. Sonny Carson and other people who've been part of the movement, and there were the Panther, all kinds of things were going on, and so forth. But you were playing this role, and I do want to personally apologize for the quality is not up to standard, and I would just make point here that this is not Paul's fault. This is my fault for not having Betacam equipment. He has it in Betacam, and I had to repair to an older version of it. But I'm sorry I don't have the technological thing to give you the full, clear expression of this. But we have this picture, a few minutes now coming up, and this is Paul Benjamin, 1973-74, playing the father of Sonny Carson. And what is it called again? The Return of Sonny Carson?
The Education of Sonny Carson.
The Education of Sonny Carson. So, okay, that's coming up now.
I suppose I let you down.
what you had to do.
I guess I could have worked less. But most of the time, we would have gone hungry. I don't know which way would have worked out better.
Hey, Pops. Everything is all right. You know, I understand. I always do.
I don't want you to go back.
Everything's gonna be all right.
That's really beautiful, you know. And again, you know, that's a beautiful scene, and it goes back, brings back memories, right?
Yes,
Yeah, so,
you know, and the talent that was there, like Mary Alice, who played my wife.
Yeah.
Brilliant actress.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I think she's appearing on Broadway now. It's like in the Square.
God bless her.
And Ryan Clanton, you know, who played the young Sonny Carson.
Yeah.
Beautiful talent, you know. Yeah, it does bring back memories.
We have some.
Michael Campbell directed it.
Yeah.
And,
that makes a big difference who the director is with the actor. I mean, Mr. Hitchcock used to have terrible thoughts about what actors were. He said they were like so much cattle.
No,
right?
I
but
think
the
so.
director's the main man on a film, or what? You know.
I think it's true.
And you worked with some really good directors, or maybe fill us in a little from in front of the camera, as it were.
Well, you know, there was Barry Shear, who directed my first film, Across on 10th Street. I've worked with Sidney Lumet.
You worked in, what was that?
This was a film, actually.
He made some
was
incredible films, yeah.
Yeah, this was a film with Sean Connery back in the early 70s. And then there is this film that I feel very, very good about, directed by a brilliant photographer and director by the name of Mr. Gordon Parks.
All right.
Senior. Yes.
Gordon Parks?
Yes.
Like the photographer?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Film director?
Film director.
Okay.
Lead Belly.
Yeah.
Lead Belly.
Oh. I
Did
didn't.
Lead Belly.
Really?
This is also
Yeah.
in the 70s.
This is in the 70s,
Yes.
right? That was a fun one? Was that a fun one? Was that a good one? Was it?
I thought it was a brilliant film.
Yeah.
It was a brilliant film. You know, the musician and the story there.
Yeah.
I thought it told it beautifully.
Yeah, we had a clip of you playing.
Just captured.
Yeah. We wanted to show some more clips. We had a clip of you doing it as a jazz musician and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that was in the 70s, and that was...
that particular one, actually, the one that we didn't show was from a television series that was being done up in Toronto by another friend of mine, Sonny Grasso.
All right.
You know,
but the Lead Belly was filmed, right?
That was
yeah,
film.
Right,
that was
right.
the film.
Yeah.
You know, yes.
And some more. You worked with some more, right up to...
Well, yeah,
you
I've
worked
worked with...
Sidney Lumet, yeah.
There's... I've done a couple of films with Clint Eastwood, and then there's... you were speaking about the young black directors and filmmakers, Spike Lee.
Spike Lee,
whom I've known for some years. I had a wonderful experience with him in Do the Right Thing.
Right, that was a really powerful movie, real powerful.
Yeah.
Had a big effect on the society and everything.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes. You know, and the thing what was so beautiful about it, you know, his talent remains. You know, I mean, I think every piece that he does, you know, I mean, his talent is so there.
Yeah.
You know, and oftentimes I like to say we need more and more of such talent.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
but there is talent there. There's got to be some way to cultivate that talent that is there and allow it.
You see, this is this is one of my greatest frustrations.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the worst thing
Yeah.
that can happen to a talent,
Yeah.
to an artist, as far his talent, his creativity,
Yeah.
to go to waste.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, I mean, it's like
Yes,
a waste
absolutely.
of life. You know,
Yeah.
you could eat at you and eat at you until
Yeah.
there is nothing left.
Right.
That's
right.
that's a sad case. That's
Yeah.
a sad thought. You know,
Yeah.
the avenue of expression, I have always maintained, must always remain open for the artist, for that true artist, that he might be able to express the truth of him, because he's talking about this person's guts, whether it be man, woman, a child. If a child wants to take some crayon and draw or paint whatever, it's here. He needs to.
In here
Yes,
and in the
yes,
soul.
of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
of course.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, it's
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And it's so frustrating because, again, back to that theme, is it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen enough for enough people. And there's too much of that talent gone. The society's got its. Does it? I mean, because there are some opportunities, right? We have a Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Yes.
We have Broadway. We have Hollywood. We have television. We have different. Some of that does, but it isn't enough to garner or to really, you know, let us utilize the talent that there is there in terms of the human spirit. The human spirit is not able to cultivate itself because it's all bowing down to Moloch, in a certain sense. Or does it? I don't know. Does it seem that way? Or there should be a renaissance. There should be a renaissance of talent.
thought.
Don't you think there should be a renaissance that could allow the talent to really find its way out of those bureaucratic prisons of locked-in, lockstep kind of thinking, worshiping Moloch, and allowed for the art to flourish? I mean, in some sort of a way. I mean, that, you know,
See,
yeah.
I mean, again,
Go ahead.
no, but
Yeah.
I mean, the way you put it in terms of the Renaissance, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's like
A new
in so many
Renaissance, yeah.
a new Renaissance,
right.
But in so many respects, it comes back to the economics of it all.
Well, I know.
You know,
Right.
how do we get beyond that?
Well, that's what that's a whole nother program.
For example, you know,
Yeah, that's a
you
whole
take-
nother
You take
program.
the state of Broadway today.
Yeah.
Unlike some years ago, again, okay, you see less and less straight pieces of drama
Uh-huh.
to come onto Broadway. Although there seems to be the beginning of somewhat of a comeback.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, Broadway consists of musicals.
Yeah.
Big musicals.
Yeah.
Why?
Safe stuff because they're going to make a buck.
They're gonna make
their
their money
return.
back.
And also the
Yes.
costs are becoming so hard. I mean, it's a tough business in and of itself, and that sort of thing. And I mean, you know, it's hard. You got to see it from everybody's perspective in a certain sense because, you know, it's just like a kind of bind we're caught up in. The point I was trying to make in a certain sense was it's like we're all caught up in this in a certain sense. We got our values all screwed up. It's not just the theaters or the economics of how you put a film on, although that's important, and how you can garner the capital and the, you know, and that kind of stuff. There's that, but it's a broader sociological question of how can we free the human spirit from the shackles of this incredible concentration upon mundane things that they insist that people do in order to earn a living. Because if you look at, you know, we're talking about the talent, but if you look at the little 5-year-old children, or you look at the creativity that there is in children, do you understand what I'm saying? Little children, and then you see that, and then, you know, that creativity just goes downhill right through time. We're wasting a lot of our brain and soul power on things that robots are going to be doing, technology is going to be doing, but there isn't anybody addressing that question. They got to use subterfuge in order to perform some sort of a human function increasingly, and we need some economic new system that's going to allow that human spirit. And then if they, you know, like if they could get some sort of a system where people could have, there's an old-fashioned term, a competence. If everybody had a competence, enough so that they could live and that they could be involved in things voluntarily, like doing a jam. you know, and they could do it, and they had the reason to do it without having to have that economic thing there. The human spirit could flower like it never had.
It comes back to another thought.
We only got a couple of minutes to express this thought, Paul.
That thought, okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can go on, but however, quickly.
You go on, I go on.
The thought being, there is so much more that we, as the artist, can do, can explore in respect to our situation.
Yeah.
The state of our situation at this time, there is so much more we can do. As I mentioned earlier, in respect to the fact that this recent year, back in the summer, myself along with a group of other actors, with the inactivity, we says, okay, to fill this void, we put together a successful reader story.
Okay, good.
To keep
Good.
the creative juices going.
Yeah.
And
that was another dire creative necessity because it's got to find a way
yes,
out, right?
Yeah,
right.
yes, and
yeah,
it has
right.
its place,
Right.
which can lead on to better things with respect to that creative force, you know,
Yeah.
that drives us. Because too often, even today, we too readily accept the status quo with respect to our respective medium.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, yeah, okay, yeah, we do. And I would say that we as a human society all too passively accept these roles that this bureaucratized, almost semi-feudal or post-industrial feudal age or system that we live in, whether it's public sector or private sector, bureaucracies, accounting, and the whole context within which the human spirit is contained, that we, the people of the country and of the world, we allow that to go on much. There should be a real creative uprising against the slings and arrows of an outrageous fortune that these people say we are heir to, and there's a better world that has to find its way forth on this earth. If we're going to really fulfill human purpose and to have a major kind of revolutionary, in the best sense of the word, fulfilling of human purpose, we have to get some major changes that are going to have to happen, and we just can't allow ourselves to go on being like the kind of wage slaves and the Moloch slaves that we have been in the past. We've got to find our way. And people who've been leading the direction in the right way, it seems to me, are the creative element. It's the creative spirit and the artist, and you've been leading the way, and I just thank you really, really, very, very much for being one of those that's leading that way, brother.
This time,
Not at all. My pleasure.
Share a few moments of thoughts, you know.
Well, they're all good thoughts, and they're relevant thoughts to the expression of the creative spirit. So again, I just want to thank you really very much. And again, I just say in the audience has been Paul Benjamin now. We've only got a chance to get started talking on this sort of on this, but it's Paul Benjamin. Happy to be able to bring you those perceptions, and we would invite you to stay tuned. Tuning in next week. We'll be coming back again. Paul, once again, thank you really very, very much for everything. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. Now. Okay. We'll see you next week, and that's it for now.
These waves